do not scale to, you know, the players. Now, the legendary creatures are the exception. Legendary creatures are pretty beefy in 5e. I wish there were more legendary creatures, and I wish there were options for the normal creatures to turn them into legendary creatures. But then you ask yourself, and you say to yourself, well, David, as a DM, you can just do that yourself. Well, no. If I'm paying $50 for a book, I shouldn't have to do that. It should already be in there for me.
You're hitting on one of my pet peeves of basically a pat response that we get a lot with role-playing games is, well, if you don't like it, change it, or, you know, you can do it. It's like, look, like,
then I'd just make my own fucking game and make it challenging.
Well, that's the point. If it's like, why am I spending, by the time I buy the monster manual and the DM's guide and
you're $150 in it.
And you're spending $150. That's not including if I want to get on Roll20 or Advantage Grounds or whatever, all the spell cards. And another reason why I don't like that answer is because, one, it's a weenie way out, and it absolves the developer of any responsibility.
And it comes from people that don't DM. That's where it comes from. Most of the time.
Another thing I don't like is, you know, there are people who are rules liars and can be.
I love those types of people.
Well, but there's some people get labeled as rules liars that may or may not be, and let me give an explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're a player, and you went out and bought the player's handbook, and you spent $50 on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you took, because as DMs, we like people who learn the rules, right? So that we don't have to tell them.
Yeah.
So you get a guy or you get a gal, and they invest several hours into learning how the game works.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come and sit down and play a game with you. And then they say, wait a minute, and you go, no, that's just not how we do it. And they're like, but I thought that was the rule. Now, a rules lawyer is somebody who does it over and over and over and is constantly picking at the DM.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
but for someone to just say, wait a minute, and then they're a little bit disappointed because they invested all this time into learning how the game works, and then the DM or the GM is just arbitrarily saying, no, the game doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So, you know,
but the DM should know the rules good enough to where, you know, the DM shouldn't have to improvise on most rules, and there's not a lot of rules in D&D 5e. I mean, if we're talking about 5e, there hasn't been any change in any rules since 3. I mean, to hit's the same way, saving throws are done the same way. I mean, there's no differences, so it's the same in every edition, but except for when you start getting into advantages and disadvantages and maybe proficiency and stuff. That's the only change. But no.
Well, and I do like, in 5e's favor, I do like the advantage and disadvantage system. But
it's from 4th edition, by the way.
I
got to throw that in there. They just
I did not know that.
Yeah, in 4th edition, they would a power would say you may trigger this power as a reaction to make the target roll twice and then take the worst of the 2 rolls, or you can go ahead and use this to help you re-roll again and take the best of both rolls. So they just didn't call it advantage or disadvantage. So.
Well,
sorry, I just thought I'd throw a shameless plug in for 4E because there's so many 4E haters out there, man. I'd love to do
some 4E just to check it out, you know. Now, the one thing I didn't like about 4E, I listened to some podcasts of it, and it did feel a lot like they were trying to make a tabletop version of WoW with all the powers and all that. But
it's up to the DM. I mean, a lot of people would watch my 4th edition games and say, wow, dude, what are you playing? And I'm like, 4th edition. They're like, wow, there's a lot of role-playing this. So 4th edition does have a lot of, they have chapters in the DMG and the player's handbook on role-playing. If the DM doesn't incorporate that, I'm sorry that the player was shorted on that. But I can't, if their experience wasn't the best, I mean, that's not, don't hate the game because of it.
Well, I guess to put a bow on my point,
but it was more tactical, yes, with tiles and stuff, and it definitely was
tactics
for sure.
There's a question here in the chat that I want to address, but before we get to that, basically to kind of put a period on what I was talking about, it bugs me when game designers release a game, and then people are like, "Well, this is a weird rule," and they're like, They're just guidelines. It's like, why am I spending $150 for guidelines?
Yeah. Right? This is another famous line that Wizards of the Coast likes to throw out on Twitter. It's up to your dungeon master.
Right.
And there's a lot of that in 5th edition. So
yeah, it's like, why? It's like, why am I buying these rules then?
Yeah.
It's like they want to have it both ways.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, at the end of the day, I do like 5th edition.
I love it.
And I've been running it weekly, a game group on behalf of a store that's down the road on Tuesday nights for about a year now. I think it's fun, and everybody's having fun with it. But I can see you being burnt out on it. How many years now?
Yeah.
All right,
and
we
plus,
have
3, 4, 5 games a week. Yeah, a little burnt out on it.
Well, I'd probably be, as much as I love role playing, as much as you've been doing it for a couple of years, I'd probably be burnt out on role playing.
Well, I have been, and that's why I haven't been around since late January, is because of that.
Right.
And
there's nothing wrong with taking a break.
When you do it as much as I have and invested 80 to 100 hours a week every single week of your life for the last almost 3 years, I got burnt out. And it sucks because it's something that I love to do, and it's something that I've loved to do since I was a little kid. But so let's see.
Well, you're also doing the majority of the DMing, which
I do all of the DMing.
Yeah.
And it's not like DMing around the table. Around the table doesn't require as much work as it does while doing it virtually. So, see, Light and Passion said his last Pathfinder session, his rogue was almost dead and prone behind a dead hill giant. So he cut it open and pulled its guts out and covered himself and played dead. I love that improvisation. Great. Our last character that died, we were able to res some bad rolls. That's beautiful. If I was a DM, DMs, man, you woo them with that kind of shit. I'm telling you, man, the DMs love that stuff. All right, so Rad's got a 5e question.
I'm looking it up right now.
Rather a quandary. If you can charm an enemy, can you then get them to willingly submit a sequester spell? Anything that doesn't require, as far as I'm... there's no type of forceful action that they can do, and if they take any damage, it ends the spell. So,
all right. Well, I'm gonna just to be anal about it. Let's see.
Yeah, no problem.
This is how I do it at my table.
We look it up too.
I try not to bust
I don't
out
have my book
too
here.
often at the table. It says you attempt to charm it. Let's assume that the charm person works. So you attempt to charm a humanoid you can see within range. All right. I'm reading out of the 5th edition Player's Handbook. If it fails, which means the saving throw, which means you successfully charm them, it is charmed by you until the spell ends, or until you or your companions do anything harmful to it. The charmed creature regards you as a friendly acquaintance. When the spell ends, the creature knows that it was charmed by you.
And they're pissed.
So it's a friend. At this point, they're a friendly acquaintance. So now let's look at sequester. And we will see what sequester does.
Yeah, they're just friends with you. It doesn't mean that they can do anything. I mean, it doesn't say that they get actions or whatever. It just means that, hey, they're not attacking you, basically.
It says, by means of the spell, a willing creature or an object can be hidden away, safe from detection for the duration. When you cast a spell and touch the target, it becomes invisible and can be targeted. If the target is a creature, it falls into a state of suspended animation. Okay, so here would be my call on that as a DM. You have to, they're your friend, a friendly acquaintance. You have to do it in a way that you convince them it's for their own good, right? So I might give you a persuasion or something like that.
Yeah, but remember, if they're harmed at anything, it ends it anyway. So
right. So I would say probably that would be okay because they're regarding you as a friend at that point. But depending on the NPC, if they were, for example, very averse to magic, let's say they were like a barbarian,
or a half elf, can't be charmed at all. Or an elf.
Well, in that case, it's a moot point. But then if for some reason that NPC would be averse to magic or suspicious of magic users, or pardon me, wizards or sorcerers or warlocks now, then I would say you'd have to persuade them to go along with it. But if they were just a normal NPC and you charmed them, then yeah, I would allow a sequester.
What? Yes. Let's see. Light and Passion says they have a full-on rules lawyer in the group, and a full-on that's not realistic guy as well. Well, you're playing a fucking fantasy game. So what's realistic about the what's realistic about the dragon you're trying to kill? So yeah, some sessions I feel sorry for my DM. Yeah, well, your DM, all he's got to do is pull that guy aside. And in fact, I've done that here. Because whenever I have new players come into my group, I always say, look, I try to play as close to the rules as I can. Now, sometimes if I forget a rule, sometimes I'll brain fart it, and I'll say, hey, I'm gonna make a call on this, and then I'll look it up after the game. No problem, I've done that. But there's a lot of stuff, especially in 5e, that doesn't have rules. So I explain to the players I have to improvise sometimes on rules. I'm trying to look at it from a neutral perspective. It's not dungeon master versus players. I don't play that way. Everybody knows that. I hardly ever have any character deaths. When I do have character deaths, I have 50 people outside my door with pitchforks and torches wanting to burn me at the stake. But, you just got to tell your players up front, look, man, I don't want all-night discussions over stuff because I'm just going to ask you to leave. I mean, that's what I would do. Be up front with them.
I remember one time you were doing and I want to, Rodasius has more follow-up questions here I want to address, but I remember I only saw you get upset one time on the stream, and I've watched you a lot, and you were finishing
I hold it pretty good, yeah.
You were finishing up Wave Echo Cave, and a guy was arguing about whether he should have seen the spiders or not, and you explained, you explained that you're like, well, because of these reasons.
And it was dark. They rolled a crit stealth check.
Yeah, and he said, well, fine, Dave. And I could tell you got upset after that. That's the only time I've ever seen you.
Yeah, every time. If he rolled a 2 or a 3 on the attack, I was like, hit, crit damage, go ahead and roll. I ended that game that night.
Finished, you wrapped it up quick.
I was like, all right, we're done with that. And after that, this guy, and because it was not only that time, I had pulled him aside on several occasions and said, look, I'm trying to make realistic calls while playing a fantasy game, and if I'm doing a basic roll, a stealth check versus your passive perception, which is, I remember he had a 10 passive perception. A 20 stealth check is going to beat a 10 passive perception every time. He did not get that. He did not get it. He just could not. He could not get it into his head. So he wanted to argue. So we ended the game, and then
I remember that. I remember you
afterwards.
You wrapped it up really quickly.
Yeah, I wrapped it up quick. I muted the stream. I pulled him down. I said, "Thanks for playing." And he goes, "Hey, man, I'm really sorry about that." I said, "Hey, I'm sorry too, but I said we have to part ways because this is multiple times you've done this." Yeah. And I said, it's not going to happen anymore. And he actually got really upset in TeamSpeak, and he's like, "Man, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to." I said, "We've already had this talk. This is the 4th time now." I said, first time is okay. Second, shame on me. Third time, shame on me for the second time. And then this time, I'm not dealing with it anymore. So you got to go, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I remember that pretty clear.
It was nothing that I did wrong. I mean, the spiders were stealth. It was a very dimly lit room. The only thing that was lighting the room was a little campfire in the corner of the room, and the spiders were up top.
They were specifically hidden. He thought, because I remember his argument was, well, but I looked. That doesn't necessarily mean you see. Right?
Sure, you see dark shadows up there. Sure, that's all you saw, and that's what I tried to explain to him.
Yeah, I remember that's the only time that I've ever seen you visibly.
It's like it's like I told him there were columns too. Remember, there were columns, and the spiders were using the columns and the shadows to their advantage.
Yeah.
All he had to do, all the spider had to do was fail that throw and say, that stealth check, and then I would have said, hey. Yes, you some fluid drops down from a spider or something. You look up, and there's these 3 huge giant spiders on the ceiling. And I would have sent him a private tell on that too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes
you can't win them all. You can't make everybody happy, man. You can't.
The ultimate thing is, and this kind of leads into Radacious's question where he said, do you draw the line if a player doesn't play the way you want, that is more optimized versus RP, rulesy? And you address this to rulesy versus realistic. I was just going to offer my input here.
Please.
How do you handle it if your party want to play more hack and slash versus what you want to DM? Here's my answer on that. The DM is a player too, and if the DM isn't into the setting or the style, that's not fair, because the DM is investing a lot of time in playing too.
Yeah.
So just
DM
because
wants to have fun too.
Yeah, the DM wants to have fun too. You know, I explain to my guys, even though I'm flexible at the store because I play on behalf of a store, so I let more stuff go because I'm trying to help the store owner sell product, and in turn he gives me a discount on stuff in his store. But at home, I like Tolkien high fantasy. That's what I like. That's the setting I like. I don't want a bunch of Dragonborn and stuff and running around in my personal games, but that's just me. Okay. So at the store, I let it go. But if I'm going to put time into running the game, preparing for the game, and I'm sorry, but it is more strenuous to be the DM because you got to keep up with everybody's character and tell
everybody else just has to show up. That's all I have to do.
I mean, do I want players who are like, well, it's just got to be the way we want to play it, whether how you want to play it? So there's this thing called
another game.
Yeah, there's this thing called a social compact. And it doesn't mean it has to be my way or the highway. It means we all work together to make sure that everybody has fun. Right? So it's just like as a DM, you want to make sure that every PC gets an opportunity to shine because they put time into their character and they want to shine. Let the DM enjoy the setting in the game too. You know, don't say, well, we want a more this kind of game. It's like, well, that's not the kind of game I want to run. You know, and that's the fairest, most honest answer I can
I agree. And to go back with that and to even add a little bit, the DM is a player too. We want to have fun. And if we are not having fun, then we are not getting our fulfillment out of this game either. So
it's like, why do it?
That's why there are house rules. That's why there are special little rules. Maybe the dungeon master wants to do, death this way. Maybe the dungeon master wants to do, no rolls at all. I mean, it can happen that way. But if you're not having fun, first off, the DM needs to find players that are going to be suited for his game, number one. If you want a successful game, you have to be upfront with them and say, I'm looking for this type of player. I'm not looking. And when I first started doing this, thank you, by the way, Sanders. I appreciate it, man. When I first started playing on Twitch, I couldn't find players to save my life. So as I got this guy with the spiders, I didn't know what I was getting into. He basically, and yes, people will literally blow smoke up your ass to get into one of your games because there are probably 1,000 players for every DM out there. And to find a DM that is actually willing to DM and to actually invest some time into putting together a good game for players and a memorable game for them to like and for them to want to keep coming back, it's rare to find that. So you, as a DM, you're the most important person there, because if you're not there doing it, the game's not happening. And nobody else is going to run that. Most of the time, nobody else is going to run that game. And that's why I started DMing, because nobody else wanted to. So I said, okay, I will. So you have to get fulfillment out of it, first and foremost. And since doing this, you have to be upfront with your players. And you have to say, look, this is the... And I'm going to touch on something else too. This is how and I was a more combat type of DM. It was the same way as when I was a kid. Sure, we did RP and stuff, but nothing like to what we do now. And
the RP now is
my 13th Age game that made me change as a DM. I mean, that game made me change. Wee Willie and Miss Scarlet and Stig and Pathfinder, Captain Ahab, those guys made me they evolved me as a dungeon master. Because I didn't have a lot of RP going on. And when I had a taste of that, I was like, wow, I want all my games to be like this, because it was so fun to have all the banter going back, and that's when I started. And I had always done corny voices and stuff, but I felt under pressure, like, oh my god, man, I have to kick up my game because these guys are so far over my level, and I had to step it up, man. I had to go and get the owlbear mask and everything else. I had to dress up as Wilbur and shit. I mean, it was those were, but yeah, that game made me evolve, and ever since then, I'm more RP. In fact, a lot of stuff that I do, I cut the combat out because I love the RP so much. So
yeah, I've gotten over the years.
That's just me.
I'm sorry. Go
but
ahead.
you have to. Final. This is my. This is my conclusion from my dissertation, Your Honor, Professor. Yeah. You have to have fun being the DM.
Yeah.
You're the most important person at that table, and no matter whatever anybody else says, you are, because you're the one that's investing all the time, and there is no game without you. So, and if you're not having fun, then don't do it. And you have to have players that are on the same wavelength as you, because if you don't, then you're going to end up like what I did in a couple games, and I had to ask people to leave. And I hate doing that, fun. But hey.
Well, you're always going to, anytime you have a group, you're occasionally going to have bad group dynamics. But for the most part, if everybody's interested in making sure that everybody has fun, it'll work out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, with the things you said there. And another thing, if the DM's not having fun, you will burn out, because then it turns into, man, I got to go tonight, and, I got to do it, and it's just no fun. So
yeah, I had friends calling me, hey, we're going out, we're going to here, we're going there. I'm like, I can't tonight, guys. I got
to run the game.
I got stuff going on. So, and then they find out that I was, they find out that I was streaming. Then they were all in there like badgering me and shit. It was so funny. Come out and play with us, Dave, and shit. It was so funny when Steve and them were getting on there and doing that. Like
pretending they're throwing pebbles at your window. Come play.
It was pretty funny.
I'll tell you, just to amend one thing I said earlier, I'll play any style or any new game or whatever as a one-off, right? Hey, can we have a night with a lot more combat? Sure. Hey, can we try out this? But I'm talking about an ongoing game.
Yeah.
An ongoing. But if they're like, hey, can we have a really super realistic, rules-heavy game? I'll do a one-off. Let's just goof around with it. Yeah. But I'm, for the ongoing, we're meeting every week and we're investing time in this. I want it to be something I want to play too.
For a story that's progressing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and to go back up to Radacious had a question earlier. No, I don't think that you would have to use suggestion to get them to use the sequester if they were, friendly to you already. Now, if they were averse to magic and might have some reason to be suspicious of the sequester, then you would either have to use a suggestion or do a persuasion check. Would be how, or you could just, if you role played it really well. So. Yeah, but yeah, you were talking about role playing, and it has increased a lot. There's a lot more emphasis on RP in role playing games over the years. Yeah, because used to, I mean, you could just be
all fighting. You go into this room.
Yeah. What random monster can I stomp?
Yeah, the descriptions and everything and all the old D&D classic modules, they were horrible. I mean, they could all be rewritten and be beautiful now. Just because tabletop games in general have evolved. So I mean, you could take those old nasty ass Keep of the Borderlands, and when I mean nasty ass, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean old grinders is what they are. It's like Munchkin. You kick in the door, what's behind there? What's behind that door? You kicking in, what are we fighting? That's basically
it. Was a dungeon crawl,
and
that's what I cut my teeth on, was a dungeon crawl.
Yep.
I want to know what's behind that door, and I'm going to survive it. And remember they used to have loot types like X and L,
treasure types,
treasure types and all. It was much more of a. Now there was some RP depending on whatever who was running the game or whatever. And in fact, that was why Tracy and Laura Hickman wrote Ravenloft. If you read his history on that, they were playing a dungeon crawl, and they came around a corner, and there was just some random vampire standing there. Mm-hmm. And Tracy said he literally rolled his eyes and was like, "Why is this vampire here? What? Why? It's just there, you know." And
because it was a roll on a random table.
It was a roll on a random table. Yeah. And he said, "No, I want to know, why is this vampire here?" And then that's what led to Ravenloft. Ravenloft for its time was a very story-driven game.
It was probably the most story-driven game.
So, but yeah, he was just like burnt out on the, you know, why is, and I never even thought of it. You know, people get into all this dungeon ecology of where do the monsters put? I don't care. Just, you know, I don't care where they poop. I don't care where they get their food.
When you're 12, and nobody ever in a role-playing game ever poops, if you think about it, or pees, or nobody ever does that, or, you know, but they eat and drink all the time. It's kind of funny, but my players, they always go to the bathroom. Oh my gosh, just that's pretty funny.
I'll tell you, the one time I worked that into one of my games, I was like, I was upset because there was some manor house that or castle or something they needed to get into, and I gave it an underground sewer, and the only reason I did that was so that if they went down there with a torch, they would light the methane and take it away. That was the only reason.
I've done that before.
That I put that in there. And the dude you know, the guy, I think I was running a one-on-one, it was just one player, maybe he was playing a couple of characters, but he was like, I looked down in there and I was like, well, it looks like a sewer and there's some, you know, waste or something in there.
Like a gas smell or something.
And he's like, I just...
Very putrid smell. Don't say gas, but say like a very putrid smell.
Yeah, so it's just nasty down there. And he goes, well, I'm not going to go down there. My torch will light it on fire. And I was like... That was my big, you know, he avoided my death trap. So.
Oh, man. Yeah. Let's get these last few here. Let's see. Anime... Let's see. He says, Sanders said, it's a shame that D&D and storytelling via gaming and tabletopping and everything like that doesn't happen more often in the home setting these days. His brother DMs, and as part of taking the work out of his brother and wife, have company over, and I should try to talk to our friends and see if they'll bring food each week. Good way to get a free meal.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Yeah, they're talking about the scatological happenings in your games there. Yep. Sanders
That's all it is, man. When you're playing with your friends, there's more bantering than there is playing. I mean, that's D&D, man. Let's see, Animus he actually has a question. In his group of people that he plays with, there's one person that has had multiple opportunities to play, but would not come to the session when the time came. Out of those 6 they were invited to, I think they came to 2. This was in a game his little bro was DMing, and then he says, I'm still DMing a game that we are going to pick back up soon. What would you say is the appropriate chance to give the person a campaign if he wants to play? Just give him a couple chances. Say, hey, we're going to play. Yeah. If you want to play, then if not, hey, find someone else. And go to your local game store. Put up a little note card, one of the little, note cards. Put that up. Hey, here's my phone number. Here's when we're playing. This is the type of game we're playing. Here's my phone number. Call me, and then I'll tell you what kind of game it is. So there you go.
Well, another thing, a lot of the game stores around here, anyway, have a lot of heavy activity with groups meeting up at the game stores. Yeah. So that's another thing you can do. Yeah. But the thing with this guy, he said they invited 6 times and they came 2. I never do a one strike you're out.
I guess I guess they don't show up too much. Well,
yeah, I mean, if they're only coming about 50% of the time, I guess it would depend on why. It's like, I really want to play, but I got school half the time. I don't know. But if they're just not showing up, they're kind of half-hearted about it. Eventually, I may say, are you sure you want to play? Because from a DM's perspective, when your character is there one time and then not the next, and then there again next time, that you're
missing information that happened last time.
Yeah, well, not only that, but it messes with my, he's there, he's not, he's there, he's not, he's there, he's not. And so if it's chronic and it's not because of a reason out of their control, I think eventually I'd say, are you sure you really want to play, or do you just want to come hang out and help me GM or something like that? Yeah. I would try to find a diplomatic way. I wouldn't just say you're out of here. But
that's what I did with a couple of people. I asked them. I said, "Hey, I know you got a lot going on with work, a lot going on with school. I'm not going to be offended if you have to bow out." And most of the time, they'll say, "Yeah, I really need to bow out."
If you give
and I'm like,
people
"Hey,
an out,
hey, just let me know whenever you got time free and you